All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar all about OER. So I am going to share my screen and get our presentation up and running. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so myself and my colleague Susan Jung from the University of Newcastle Library will be talking to you today about open educational resources as part of Open Access Week. And we're tweaking the Open Access Week theme slightly today. We're talking, instead of open for climate justice, we're talking about open for social justice. But I will show you how that relates back. Just a couple of housekeeping points. You can unmute yourself and ask questions, or you can put questions in the chat. But what we're going to do is leave questions right until the end. So once we get to the end, please feel free to open your mic or type a question in the chat, and we will address those for you. So I would like to begin with an acknowledgement of country, acknowledging the wonderful work by the custodians of country on all of the lands that we're coming to you from today. I'm coming to you from the lands of the Pambalong clan of the Awabakal people, and I would like to acknowledge the care and custody that they have put into land for thousands and thousands of years. It's very difficult at the moment with all of the flooding and other disasters that are happening down the east coast of Australia because of climate change. So it's very apt that we're talking about climate justice in Open Access Week this week. I would also like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Okay, so getting back to our theme for Open Access Week, how will social justice help to achieve climate justice? So one of the ways is that more students are supported to complete a program, which in turn means that they graduate with better ideas of what to expect in the workplace and in the research environment. This in turn leads to more informed work and research. So when we're talking about climate justice, that's an extremely good thing. Okay, so let's explore how this might happen. So one solution for bringing social justice into higher education is using open educational resources, or OER. Now, these are resources which are free to use, to reuse, to remix and to share. They are not limited at all. They can be digital or physical. They can be big, like a textbook, or they can be small, like slide decks, infographics, videos, lesson plans, etc. Now, for our webinar today, we'll use OER to mean open textbooks, but just keep in the back of your mind that there are smaller options as well. And it's better to start small and think big. Any open educational resources are better than none. Okay, so the elements of social justice that are addressed by OER include cost, availability, accessibility, local relevance, and inclusion and diversity. And I will go into more detail about each of these elements in a moment, but I just want to put these into context and talk about the three dimensions of social justice. Okay, the first one is redistributive or economic. That includes cost, but it also pertains to availability and accessibility. The second dimension is recognitive. So that means positive recognition and respect for cultural, racial and gender differences. And it ensures that students see diversity. And this pertains to accessibility, local relevance and inclusion and diversity. The final dimension for social justice is representational. It actually overlaps with recognitive social justice and it expands it out to include socio-culturally diverse perspectives. It ensures that students hear diverse points of view and knowledges in their educational resources. And this includes accessibility and inclusion and diversity. So going into a deep dive in each of these elements, the first is cost. Okay, so if students choose to read your OER online, it is absolutely free for them. But even if they print a PDF version, that is still cheaper than purchasing a new or a secondhand commercially published textbook. And when you think about it, how many more students will be able to complete your course if they have access to a no or low cost text? Okay, so open textbooks can remediate economic injustice in terms of the cost and unequal access to learning resources. Now, when we're talking about advantages to low or no cost texts, the non-purchase of key learning resources has been shown to have a range of negative impacts, such as increasing subject failure, reduction in grades, dropping out of subjects, reducing the number of subjects studied, and slowing progress towards graduation. So imagine if you start to use OER, even if you're starting small, you can start to flip that around. Okay, so there are two aspects to the element of availability. The first one is time, and the second one is format. So in terms of time, having access to the textbook before the first day of semester helps students to be better prepared and to progress faster. Access throughout their program and after graduation also provides them with that just-in-time support. In terms of format, students can choose how to interact with your text, and that feeds into that idea of open pedagogy, where you're giving students agency in what they're learning. Okay, now, for example, the Pressbooks platform, which is a very popular one for open textbooks, it provides options to publish in PDF for print, PDF for digital distribution, EPUB, HTML book, and more. Now, this improves portability. I mean, literally, students are no longer having to lug heavy textbooks around. They can be stored on their phone or their device. The text or the course reading can easily be integrated into a learning management system, and Susan's going to show us how to do that very shortly. Students and teaching staff no longer have to struggle with limited user licenses on library resources. Now, these are completely beyond the library's control. They come to us through publisher agreements. We cannot change them. So there are some resources where only 3 students can use them at a time. And you can imagine at around assessment or exam time, that can get very stressful. And finally, if your students have limited access to the internet, which, let's face it, we haven't bridged the digital divide in Australia, they can download your text and they can work offline. Our next element we're talking about is accessibility. When you're thinking about this, think of the social model of disability, which reframes it to talk about barriers in society, and talking about disability as situational rather than permanent. So anyone can experience disability at any point in their lives. How many of us have tried to watch a YouTube video on public transport and wish that there were closed captions? Or even watching a how-to tutorial and wishing that there was a written list of instructions that was easy to understand. So you can see, as you remove the barriers, everyone benefits. Now, there is a guide in Pressbooks that has an accessibility checker. It's like a little checklist, and you can use that to make sure that your text is as accessible as possible. So that applies even if you're adopting or adapting an OER that you have found in a repository. You can still use this checklist to go through and make sure that everything is as accessible as it can be. I will put all these links in the chat later in the webinar, so don't try to madly copy it down. And our second final element is local relevance. So you can tailor or adapt an existing open textbook or smaller OER to include current local case studies. This makes sure that the content is more relevant and engaging for students, which not only keeps them interested in your teaching, but it gives them more realistic expectations of the workplace or the research environment. So, for example, you can ensure that your text is not too heavily North American or even predominantly Western. You can incorporate Australian and or other knowledges, languages, and cultural norms. So inserting case studies from your students or your own experiences will make that content much more relevant and engaging for the students. And finally, inclusion and diversity. Now, this is arguably one of the more important elements in social justice. So you can use OER to address the social injustices of uneven resourcing and or negative racial, gender and disability stereotyping in curricula. And the way you can do this is textbooks are seen as authoritative. If your text represents diverse students, communities and experts in a positive way, this validates the contribution of diversity in the classroom and helps to counter those stereotypes in curricula. So we've got three little aspects here. The first aspect is that of belonging. Now, it's been shown that a lack of diverse reading materials contributes to a lack of a sense of belonging and to stereotype threat in the classroom. However, a diversified text can reduce that threat, it can improve that sense of belonging, and it can reduce the effort required by underrepresented students to fit in and not to be seen as different, first within their course and then within the workplace. In terms of aspirations, students have said that seeing themselves in reading and learning materials made them feel more positive about what they could achieve. Now that feeds directly into motivation for completing your subject and the program. And finally, expectations after graduation. By incorporating diverse cultural perspectives into your curriculum, this benefits all students and prepares them for contemporary workplaces and roles after graduation. Okay, so now I am going to stop sharing and I'm going to hand over to my lovely colleague Susan, who will teach us how to use OER in teaching and learning.
Okay, I just shared my screen. So hello everyone. Welcome to the library OER session. My name is Susan Zhang. I'm one of teaching liaison librarians based at Orenba. Today, I will show you some tools and collections for finding, assessing, and embedding OER for teaching and learning. So the first step is finding, and there are many OER repositories, collections, and search tools. For example, for Australian content, the first place I will go to is the ANU Press. So the ANU Press is the first and the largest open access publisher in Australia. It has published over 1,000 open access books. So you can see it here, and it's all available to the world. And you can search the price or search the title and use them from there. All right. And also, Sydney University Press also published some open access books, and you can browse them by open books, open textbooks, and also supplements. All right. And also La Trobe eBureau is a new leader of OER publisher. They publish some OER books. Here you can see. And also UTS ePress published some open books here, and also journals as well. And also RMIT, there's an RMIT Open Press, also publish open textbooks. And also RMIT, they have a collection of the OER images. So they are created by RMIT and licensed under Creative Commons. And the University of Southern Queensland, they have a curate 11 collections of OER books and open access books. And you can see it's include their own publications. And you can see there are Indigenous studies, open text, etc. So that is a great collection of Australian and also international OER resources and textbooks. That is for Australian contents. For international contents, there are more collections and more search tools. So for example, the open text library, that is my number one to do for international content. It has been in operation for 10 years, and they have over 1,000 open textbooks, and it's growing fast. And another thing about the open textbook library is the platform is so easy to use. It's so well designed. I really like it. You can search any books by title or keyword, or you can browse by subject areas. And for example, if you search for one book, for example, that I do search for neuroscience, maybe. For the individual books, so if I search by keyword, you will see all the individual books. For example, this one is published in 2021. And if you click on the title, you will see all the details about this book. So it has the title, the author, year of publication, ISBN number, and publisher. And also it provides all the different formats for you to read it online, read it on ebook readers, and use a PDF or open document format. And also you can see the CC comments here, and also you can see the reviews here. So this book is published in last year, and you can see there are 6 reviews. Yeah, 6 reviews here, and you can see all the details, who reviewed it and what's their comments, etc., and when they did review. So those open reviews give you an idea, how people used it and what's the strength of the book and the weakness of the book. So it's helping you to decide if it is the right book for your course. Okay, so it's a great collection. So so it's always my number one for OER, open textbooks. Okay, and also the open textbook, they have a quality control page procedure, and you can see their review criteria. So it gives you an idea when you author your book, and you will look at how you control the quality, how to improve the quality. Yeah, it's also help people to assess the books. Yeah, and the next one I want to show you is Pressbooks directory. It has a large collection of open books, so it's have more than 4,000 books, and the majority of them are open access books. And you can search the books by keyword or title. You can also limit or filter by lessons. You can see there are different licenses. The majority of them are under CC license or in public domains. And some of them are, the small number of them are all rights reserved. And you can also browse by subject area or limit by the subject area, language, etc. Okay, so it's also great OER books collection. The next one I want to talk about is BC Campus. BC Campus is publicly funded service in British Columbia, Canada. So BC Campus have published a large selection of open books on a wide range of topics. So lots of the books published are peer-reviewed, and many have the supplementary materials, such as quizzes, slides, videos, etc. So it's a great collection of open OER textbooks. So you can search the book by the title or keywords, and you can also browse them by the subject areas. So it's a great collection. And also they have a great quality control procedure there. So they developed the OER rubrics and OER checklists, etc. So I set good examples for other OER collections and producers. So it's good collection. The next one I want to talk about is OpenStax. OpenStax is one of the pioneers that started open practice in 1999. So it's long before the others. And all the books on OpenStax are peer-reviewed, and the majority of them are CC BY, very generous, openly licensed, and is certainly completely 100% free. And you can see their books. It's not a huge collection, but it's really, the quality is really, really high. And you can browse them by subject areas or do a search. It's great. Yeah, it's a great collection as well. Now I want to show you it's MIT. MIT, it started from 2001, so it's more than 20 years now. And it has been creating, it's put all the MIT courses into online as a OER, so people can make use of them and adapt them, and they are made for sharing. See there, so you can download, you can send to your friends, modify, remix, reuse, etc. And that includes many OER textbooks. It's a great pioneer. It's a great collection. And next, we can see the OER Commons. OER Commons covers everything OER, including the textbooks. And you can search by keywords. You can browse by subject areas. You can also limit by education levels, high school or university graduate or undergraduate. Yeah, it's a great place to search for anything OER, including the textbooks. Oasis is another search tool. So you can search for anything open access, OER, or or anything. For example, the textbooks. So if you are interested in textbooks, you can click on it and find more textbooks by keyword search or advanced search. Okay, and also MUM. MUM is a super search tool. It's a meta finder for OER. It search 22 OER collections, all at once, simultaneous in real time. So it's really powerful. So if you want to find all the information OER, you can use this super tool. So, and you can search all or any of them. So you can click on any to search. It's really powerful. Yeah, that's a great search tool and meta finder. The last I want to talk about is our own library search. So the last but not least, because in our library collection, we have many OER books or open access books. For example, if you want to find the open access books, you can go to the books section, and then you can type in a keyword, for example, psychology. Make it simple, and we will do a search, and you will see I do the search in the book section, and on the results list, I can limit them to open access. For example, you see the options say open access, and I also want the ebooks full text. And you can see how many titles are ebooks on psychology. And I can limit, for example, 3 years. And I can also limit by language, for example, English. And you can see within the past 3 years, and the English ebooks, open access ebooks on psychology is 800, over 800. And you can see what it looks like. So if you click on quick look, you will see all the information about the book, the author, the abstract, and who is the publisher, which is OpenStack. It's very very high quality open access publisher. So that is our library search. So it covers Australian and international content. So that is how and where we can use the tools to find information, to find the OERs. All right, so that is for funding. Next, I will talk about assessing, because assessing is really essential part of using OER. But I know you are the best assessors. You are the expert in that area because you teaching academics. You know your content. You know your students. You know the latest research. You know how to teach and teaching well, and you know the you have the knowledge of the world, and also you have the knowledge of the local environment. So I believe you are the best expert in this area. However, you may find that OER can be very different from the traditional textbooks. They are more dynamic. They are more engaging. They are more inclusive, and there are more features than the traditional textbooks, as Ruth already talked about. So you may find the OER rubrics and the checklists are helpful, so make use of them. Also, you may find the open peer reviews are helpful. So if you are considering using one of the textbooks, you can read all the peer reviews by the users, by the professors, because they have already used it in their classroom, etc. And also pay attention to the licensing, because OER have different licensing and permissions, completely different from the traditional textbooks, which is one chapter or 10%. So yeah, get to know the licensing and the permissions. And also in the library, we have a special copyright advisor. So if you need any help, and please get in touch. Anthony is very helpful. Yeah, and he is at the meeting now. Okay, next, I will show you how to add OER textbook to Canvas and embedding it in the content area. So that will be seamless for students, and actually is follow the same procedure as no matter it's OER or commercial textbook, it's similar procedure. So you add it to course readings and then embed. So I quickly show you how you can do this. So basically, for example, if you are in the course, for example, as I am now. So if you are in your course and you want to use that OER, you select it. So first you can go to course readings from here. And from here, you can then see your course readings here. And then there is an option let you to add a new book, for example, new book readings. And then you will fill in all the details here. For example, let's try one, maybe for example, this one. Okay, so I have the title of the book. So I will type it in. Title of the book, Neuroscience. It can be all capital, it's fine. And then the publisher, I will go, the publisher is Michigan State Library. So I put it in. And that one is author. It's not an added book, and there is author. And for the author's part, you need to put the surname first. So for example, I will copy it and then go to, because it says surname first, I go to surname and then comma, space, and the first name. So I put it that way. So it will give you the instruction. So just follow the instruction there. And year published is, I know it's 2021. Date, don't know the date. And also maybe there's an ISBN number I can see. So I put ISBN number there. And also there's a library note, because this is a demonstration, so it's not a real one. So I just may put something there to tell the library team don't do anything about this reading, because it's for demonstration purpose. And you can write any note for your students. And the title, reading title, is the whole book, so we don't need the reading title. So journal, it would be whole book. And can't. If you have the PDF, you can upload the PDF. But for this one, I just put the URL there, so student can choose which format they want. So I put the link there, and the page number, I don't know the page number, but I can put in if you know it. And I think that's probably it. And if it is all correct, I just submit. And the book required, okay.
Susan, I think you need to choose whether it's a required or a recommended reading.
Oh, right. Okay, I forgot about it. So yeah, recommended, I think. Okay, now try again. Required field. So it's processing. Excellent. Thank you, Ruth. Yep, it seems working. And you can see in my reading list, one is just submitted, and that's the one we just, yeah, that is how you add a new reading to your reading list, to your course readings. And then when it's active, the library will usually look at it and then make it active. And then in your modules, when you're writing your contents, and you can put the link there to embed the readings in the course readings area. So basically what you can do is something like this, how you embed it. So for example, I just add it. If I want to add an adding, if I want to add a reading, I will go there, and I may at the beginning, for example, or at the end. At the end, put your cursor in the place you want to add the reading. So you can click on the plug there and says course readings, or you can view all. So go to course readings. And then you can select a course reading. For example, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, do it again. So go to course readings. And then you go to choose a reading, for example, and I choose, for example, trimester 2. And then from trimester 2, I can select any readings. For example, I may say, choose a reading there, for example, that one. And I go to next. And then you can have a look what it looks like. How do you want to display it? If it's all good, you can click on create. So basically, the reading is inserted for you like this, okay? And then you can save it. So that reading will be in your course reading area for your student in your content area for week 1, week 2, or week 3. So that is how you embed a reading from your course readings. And of course, you can also embed the OER videos. So for example, for this one, let me just go to YouTube. That is, I embedded earlier. I show you how to embed it. It's pretty straightforward. It's very easy. So basically, to find if a YouTube video is OER or open access, what you can do is you can see there's a show more button there. If you go to show more, and you can see there's a license. So this one is Creative Commons CC BY, so you can reuse it and remix it, etc. So, and to embed it, you can go to the share button there, and you can see there's a embedding code there. So click on the embedding code and copy and go back to your content area in Canvas and go to the editing button there. And then you can embed it here. So put your cursor in a place, for example, maybe before or after the text. It's going a little bit slow. For example, you put your cursor there. For example, there. If I want to put the want to embed the OER the video here, I put my cursor there, and then I go to the 3 dots, and you can see there's embedding code. So basically, you can just paste your embedding code there. And at this stage, you can choose, how big or how wide you want the video to display. So I may not change it. So it may be smaller than the original one, than the one already there, but it's okay. But I can change the dimension, okay? So if I submit, you will see it is embedded here, okay? So that's pretty easy. So you can just click on save, and it is embedded into your course content area. So you can see that's the one we just embedded, and that's the one I embedded last year. Yesterday as a test. And you can change the size if you want. And also you can see the attribution is required. So, and how to attribute, how to give credit to the CC BY lessons. Okay, that is for the teaching staff. And also, if you are a student, you can also use OERs in your course. For example, for course discussions, you can put OERs there. So you may put an OER textbook or books there, and with a link to that book, or you can embed the OER videos, etc. So basically, that's all I want to show you today. So that's about embedding. So basically, that's all I want to show you: how to find, how to assess, and how to embed. All right. Thank you, Ruth.
Oh, great, Susan. Thank you so much. I learned stuff too, which is awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will share my screen once again. Okay, so if we have piqued your interest and you would like to know more, we have created an open educational resources guide for you. So this includes lists of OER repositories, which Susan went through just a moment ago. It includes instructions on how to find and access appropriate OER, how to adopt, adapt, or even if you're feeling, you know, exceptionally adventurous, author an open educational resource. There is expert guidance on licensing and copyright, which has been written by our copyright advisor. There is a page of additional resources if you're interested. And most importantly, there are lists of school-specific OER. Now, these have been put together for you by your teaching liaison librarians. At the moment, they concentrate on foundational textbooks, but there is space to include smaller OER and more advanced content depending on what you would prefer. And in that respect, we've also built in a feedback page to our guide so that you can give us suggestions on what you would like to see. And of course, you can contact your teaching liaison librarians who would be extremely happy to help you. And I'll put that link up in the chat as we come towards questions as well. Now, I have been talking a lot about social justice today and open educational resources. These are the main sources of that information. If you're interested, if you would like to follow up and maybe read these, please reach out to me. I've got lots and lots and lots of research on open educational resources, which I'd be very happy to share with you. Okay, and now we come to questions. If you would like to unmute, you're very welcome to ask questions. You can type your question into chat if you would prefer that way. And if we don't get to your question today, please reach out to myself or Susan or your teaching liaison librarians, and of course, your copyright advisor, Anthony O'Brien. And I believe he put that link in the chat for us as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing for now, and I'm going to pop some links in the chat and we can take questions.
No questions. Good.
I think we've stunned them all, Susan.
Yep.
They're all digesting the information.
Yep, that's great. Yeah.
Okay, if we don't have any questions, I'll just put one final link in the chat, and then I would like to absolutely recommend that you go to the Open Access Australasia site to have a look at other events that are happening this week for Open Access Week. And the library is also holding quite a few events. Actually, if you go to Open Access Australasia and have a look at today's event, there's actually a hackathon where we're trying to put together climate justice resources for teachers in an OER textbook, which will be completely free for them to reuse, remix and share with K-12 students. So that's a really worthwhile thing to get involved in. You don't have to come to the library, you can join online. We have booked a room at Ogmudi Library if you would like to come along for that at 1 o'clock today. And yes, I've just put that link in the chat for you if you would like to follow up. Okay, well, thank you all so much for coming, and thank you, Susan, for showing us all that wonderful stuff about adding, finding, curating, all the excellent stuff about OER. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. The recording will go up on our website very soon. And Susan, did you have anything else to say?
No, that's all. Thanks.
You've summed it up beautifully. That's wonderful. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you for coming. Bye.